When someone starts connecting all three, the food, genetics, and the environment, what shifts do you see in them?
I see health, well-being, and thriving and becoming the best version of yourself that you can be. And you know what? We all deserve that, no matter what age we are.
Hi there, I'm Wendy Rimmelsbacher, and welcome to the podcast show Dim to Daring. Do you feel like there's something bigger waiting for you, but you're not sure how to make it happen? You're in the right place. I'm here to bring you inspiring stories, powerful insights, and practical strategies to help you reignite your spark, realign with your purpose, and take those bold steps towards the life you were meant to live. Let's dive in, because you're not finished yet. You're just getting started. Sometimes the life we're meant to live doesn't reveal itself until everything falls apart. Imagine waking up one morning and the pain in your body is so severe that even a bedsheet touching your skin is unbearable. You can't squeeze toothpaste out of the tube, you can't get dressed on your own, and for over a year, no one can tell you what's wrong. That was a reality for today's guest. And instead of letting it break her, she let it call her forward. Anne Gaarenstroom is a certified holistic health coach and founder of Live Your Great Life, where she helps women get to the root cause of what's holding her health and their lives back. Anne, welcome to Dim to Daring. Take me back to that morning in 2016. What was going through your mind when you woke up and knew something was very wrong?
Thank you, Wendy. First of all, thank you for that lovely introduction. And it almost brings tears back to me hearing that, because I've moved past that now. So it's kind of hard to hear that. I mean, it was a very trying time. So what I woke up one morning and there was just severe pain in my right wrist. And my first thought was, oh, great. What did I do now? Because I tend to go hard with everything I do, and I have had broken a lot of bones. And I thought maybe I sprained my wrist or something, because I have horses and I was working with horses. And then, fast forward, it went away, and then it showed up in the left wrist. And then my first thought was, oh boy, rheumatoid arthritis, because that mimics. It'll do it that way.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. So I have doctor friends, and I immediately reached out to one and I said, run all the tests for me for, that a doctor like that would run for RA. And, long story short, it took, like you had mentioned, it took over a year before I could finally figure out what I had. And then the pain would migrate all around my body, and it was very, very severe. I couldn't walk a lot of the times and was in bed most of the time. But I think for me, what I intrinsically did was listen to my gut intuition. And, as much as I could have run into a autoimmune doctor, and they probably would have put me on something that would have blocked my immune system, thinking, well, she probably does have rheumatoid arthritis. But my gut kept saying, no, that can't be. I'm not just going to wake up, boom, just like that and have it. So it was a long journey. And I also say there's a quote by Eckhart Tolle to the effect of, sometimes life gives you what you most need, and that's a really tough one for me to say and equate it with what happened. But I think we also have to take everything that happens to us in life and try to use it for the good. And I think, bad things can happen, but God can make good out of those bad things. And so for me, that was my experience. It was horrific, and I wouldn't wish it upon anyone, but I learned so much, and it's given me the gift to really help other people now.
Oh, that's so rich. That quote is just wonderful. And you're so right. It's when you're in the moment, you really don't want that dose of common sense in a quote. But when you move beyond it, it makes so much sense how much you've learned and the path you were meant to be on. It's a painful process.
It is. And just so you know, I did not look at that quote when I was in that much pain. It wasn't until later that I saw that and I thought, wow, okay, this can apply to me. So, no, when you're going through that kind of pain, you're just desperate to get an answer. And you
Right.
see, I learned the medical establishment, as wonderful as it is in the United States, and we need our great doctors, they miss the boat on so many things. And they missed the boat on me. And there's so many people that have Lyme disease that are not diagnosed with it. There's a lot of people out there that have it right now.
Yes, I've heard stories about that over the years as well. And it's so awesome that you had this intuition and you were listening to it. A lot of times we kind of think, oh, the doctors know better, but our intuition is so strong and it's usually right on. So, very good for you that you listen to that gut instinct.
We live in a busy world, and busier than it's ever been in recent history, and we tend to crowd out our intuition. Everybody does that. So,
Yeah. I want to back up just for a second. I just have to tell our listeners that the way we found each other is such a fun story. Anne's husband and I went to the same high school, never crossed paths. Then Anne and I went to the same college, never crossed paths with her either. And then we all ended up connecting on social media years later. And one day her husband posted a video of Anne hosting a friend's event on food and nutrition. I knew immediately I had to have her on this show. So for anyone out there who has a love-hate relationship with social media, this is absolutely proof it can bring some really wonderful people into your life. Anne, I'm so glad to be talking with you today and to have met you. And it's just such a pleasure to hear your story and have you share it with my community.
Well, likewise, I think we all have a story within us, and that's always evolving. So I love your story as well, Wendy.
Thank you. So, Anne, in those early days, were there signs your body had been trying to tell you something even before that morning? And what kept getting in the way of finding the real answer, if that's true?
Well, what got in the way of finding the real answer is that there's no good testing out there for Lyme disease, and that doctors don't know about it and have very little training. And doctors would say to me, when I found out that's what I had and I would tell my story, people would immediately say, oh, were you on the East Coast? And I would say no, because they still have this paradigm. It's only on the East Coast. It's all over. And it's from fleas, ticks, and mosquitoes. So it's everywhere. And before you were asking before that, like any signs about anything, the only thing I could think of is that my whole life I've been a go girl. I do a lot. And so I pretty much run in, which is the sympathetic nervous system, which is our gas pedal in life. And it's our fight or flight, flee. And we need to be more in parasympathetic nervous system, which is the brake pedal, which is the rest, digest, heal, and restore. So when I got sick and couldn't do anything, for me, it was extreme. A lot of people who get Lyme, a lot of people have neurological, cognitive issues, which I didn't have any of that. But for a lot of people, it's just symptoms that then get misdiagnosed. It's not as severe. For me, it was so severe, probably because I have a gene that doesn't clear it as well, which we can talk about later because it brings up genetics. So I became so sick so fast that I had to either figure it out or I wasn't going to be around in a few years. And what it did teach me, going back to the sympathetic and parasympathetic, God was saying, girl, sit down. Sit down and be still. And that's when I learned to meditate for the first time in my life. And I was one of those people that would always say, I can't meditate. And I would start to do it. And I'm just, go all the time. Well, when you can't go, you can't walk and you're in so much pain, there's not a lot you can do. So I would meditate and I would go inward in my mind and learn to, heal and, use the parasympathetic nervous system. So, the Lyme happened to me because I got bit by a tick and didn't know it, which happens a lot, and didn't clear it. I don't clear it very well. But I still, probably something else could have taken me down if I hadn't have learned the lesson that you need to slow down in life. We are not designed to go at the rate that most of us do today.
Oh, I so agree with that. And I can relate because I'm that kind of a go girl as well. What a shift that must have been, going from someone who resisted slowing down to finding that meditation was actually beneficial to your healing process. From what you've shared with me so far, Lyme disease alone takes everything out of you. And something tells me life wasn't exactly slowing down around you either.
I had two kids that were like one in college, probably two in college, and I had two seniors in high school, so four. And then my mom died too, all at the
Oh
same
my
time.
goodness. And so, in meditating, like, how did that come to you to do that? Was it just something that you intuitively did because you were down, you were sitting still and quiet, or did somebody lead you to that?
I don't remember how exactly, but I had ran across back in that time period, Deepak Chopra and Oprah Winfrey had these meditation courses that they would put online, and they were fabulous. And one of them was called Become What You Believe. And wow, that resonated so much with me. And to this day, I still listen to that series of meditations. I purchased it. I purchased several, but that one I love going back to because it's the whole importance of our mind and belief. And as I mentioned to you before, one of my very favorite books is called The Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton. And it's pretty sciencey. A lot of people don't like it, but it explains to you how what our mind believes, our body conceives. And it really works down to a cellular level as well. So most people walk around with negative talk all day and don't even know it. They say things to themselves all day. So if we're walking around with positive thoughts, positive affirmations, our body is going to start feeling that before any of the good stuff even happens. So there's a lot of science on meditation, manifestation, all of that kind of thing. But in reality, I think I just ran across the podcasts or they were he had a podcast, I think, at the time, Deepak Chopra. And I started doing it, and it just really resonated with me. And the Become What You Believe series, well, I would lay there in bed listening to it, and I would believe in my head that one day I was going to be running again on the beach. I love to run. I couldn't walk. I was limping a lot. I ended up in a wheelchair a couple times because I couldn't
Mm,
walk. So I would lay there in my body couldn't do these things anymore. And I love weightlifting. I couldn't do that, of course. But
right.
in my mind, I was healed and running. And I would also praise God at the same time for healing me because I believed so strongly that one day I would be okay and I would be healed. So it's very important, that aspect, just as much as food and what we put in our body. What our mind takes in and believes is also as important.
That's incredible. And I believe in that wholeheartedly. You just did that so well, though. It's just like taking a moment to
Well,
pause that what you were going through really with four boys, raising them at the age they were and how busy their lives must have been. And then to lose your mom and not feeling well to
mhm.
even get up and take care of yourself. I can't even imagine what that time was like for you, other than the word dark comes to mind.
It was very dark, and for quite a while after that, I kind of had PTSD after I got better, because getting back into the world after being kind of absent for a few years, it was hard, But
Yeah.
our bodies are resilient. It's amazing what the human body can do, and if we give our body half a chance, it'll always try to stay in homeostasis. It'll always heal itself. But we live in a world today where we're throwing so many things at it, so many toxins, which is a big topic for me.
Hmm.
And our body was never designed to detox all of the toxins that are in our world today that we're putting in our food, on our skincare products, that babies are born. An environmental working group did a study years ago, and I don't remember the numbers, but it showed all of the heavy metals that babies were born with because it goes from mama to baby with the umbilical cord. So we have a problem today. And yeah, that ties into all of it. It all comes full circle, mental and physical with all of the toxins in the world.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's so sad where we're going here, and that it's not just common sense knowledge, and everybody's working together with that same belief. You know, the medical world and the colleges teaching the doctors, and just all of us being on the same page about what's going on.
Well,
but it's getting better every day.
It is, and there's so much we can do, and that is why I always encourage people. Well, number one, I always tell them, educate yourself. Okay, it's up to you. Don't rely on other people. Educate yourself, learn what's going on, take the time, and then use your buying power. Start with using your buying power. Buy organic, try to grow things at your home. The more, it's getting better because you'll see the stores now, a regular grocery store is starting to finally have organic produce, more and more organic products, because people are demanding it. And there's a group of people that if they can't get it at their local Safeway or Albertsons, then they're going to go to, a farmer's market, or they're going to go to, we have what's a Sprouts here, or a Whole Foods, or that kind of thing. But the more we do that, that's our ability to say no more, and then they'll start changing. And there's a lot of ways to get involved that I can talk about at the end as far as legislation and being active. But it's up to us individually and collectively as a group to say no more. And the United States does not do well. And so other countries, they're doing much better than us with their regulations and stuff, but the United States, not so much. But there's always hope. We can always do better. And, that's what I like to teach people about.
Everything you've shared paints such a clear picture of what you've walked through, and not just physically, but that emotional and mental part of it as well. And what I love about your story is that it didn't end there. And that's the point of this show, is going from dim to daring. Nobody could illustrate this any better than what you're doing here today. But at some point, all that experience started shaping the work you do now, which I know we're just on the cusp of breaking into here in this podcast. So let's talk about that shift into your coaching. When did you sense your own healing would become the work you share with others?
I think I've always been a healer as a child. Even I would always be, helping people. So that comes naturally for me. And then I just learned so much from my journey, and I love researching and I love science. So I just dig into things and learn about it. And then it's almost like it's an innate gift. Sometimes there's things in us that are very clear what we should be doing, and other times, not so much. And we have to peel back the onion layers and figure it out. But I would walk into a, like a natural health food store for something for myself. And next thing I know, I had people coming up and random people asking me, what do you think about this? Which is better? So it's kind of started that way for me, that it even though I wasn't, and with Lyme, when you try to help people, it's really hard because it's not a one pill thing to take to fix it. You have to figure out what is going on with your body, and you have to heal a lot of things like old viruses and mold exposure and Lyme, so all kinds of things. So I didn't particularly want to go down that route because it's really complicated, but it kept being put back into me. I have people fall into my orb that, reach out to me that need help. So that's kind of when I realized, okay, I need to take this serious. And so I do health coaching, where I work, one-on-one with different people, all kinds of different things. But then I really love advocacy. And that's how you saw what Paul had posted and you saw on social media. So I hosted 3 speaking events for Zen Honeycutt from Moms Across America. And I highly, highly urge anybody listening to get onto momsacrossamerica.org. And you do not have to be a mom to do it. That's just her tagline. But there's all kinds of facts on that website on what's going on with our food supply and everything and what you can do about it. And she's constantly doing testing on our food supply, because people don't realize, for example, over 80% of the cereals they tested, they contain glyphosate residues, which is the pesticide, which is to me there's a lot of toxins in the world, but that's the big daddy. And if you want, I can go into more about that. But they've tested military food, 100% of the 16 chow hall meals and 24 their rationed, that they have the ration meals tested positive for 62 pesticides.
Oh.
And so it's in everything. Yeah, and our school lunches, 74% of those tested positive for up to 38 different pesticides. And baby formulas, 100% of 40 tested baby formula samples contained aluminum and lead.
Oh.
So, so that's so.
Well,
Yeah.
the levels that are acceptable by federal guidelines are way high, aren't they? Isn't that the problem? It's not that the government doesn't know that it exists and it's in there.
The regulatory agencies turn a blind eye because it's to do with lobbyists, and like people that were on the board for, say, Monsanto, which was the company that made glyphosate, which is the herbicide that's sprayed all over. That's the one thing I think is poisoning everybody and making people sick. Those people end up in government positions. It's money. It's money and corruption. And that's sad. That's sad. I was very sad to really understand all this because it's hard to grow up in America and know this happens everywhere. And then Monsanto sold to Bayer, and Bayer is the German company that now owns the product Roundup, which is glyphosate, the herbicide. And oddly enough, get this one, Bayer makes the poison, which is glyphosate, that causes the blood cancers. And they also make the chemotherapy drug that treats the blood cancers.
That's such a conflict, isn't it? It's disturbing.
Well, it's full circle. It's not for them. It's not a conflict.
It's a financial jackpot.
So it kind of shows you what's going on. So until we, the consumer, the individual, wake up and start screaming, no more, we demand better, then things won't change. So that's why I really love to encourage people to get involved. And people will say, well, what can I do? Well, like I said, the first thing you do is educate yourself, because we have so many chronic illnesses today that people don't realize, they're affected by everything that's going on. They just think, oh, it's normal to have this autoimmune, or it's normal to have this health condition because I'm old, So 1 in 5 kids today have a chronic illness. They didn't used to. 1 in 5 kids, they have a mental health disorder. 20% of our kids and 40% of adults today are obese. And 1 in 40 kids have childhood depression. So if you look at the statistics of things and then you go back and research them, they've just skyrocketed. And, they've skyrocketed basically since the inception and the use of Roundup, which is glyphosate, which, if you're curious, I can tell you how that started. Do you want me to tell you now? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. So it started in 1950 by a Swiss chemist who was trying to come up with new pharmaceuticals, and they never found a use for it. And so they decided in 1964 they could patent it and use it as like a pipe cleaner because it chelates metal. So they used it during the wars, I believe. They chelated the pipe, so they would spray this in there, and it took off all the heavy metals in there, the minerals, magnesium, zinc, copper, calcium, like that. And then in 1970, Monsanto, their chemists, used it. They decided to turn it into an herbicide. Okay, so now they're using it as that. And then in 74, Monsanto, was it in 7? No, in 96. Oh, so they developed Roundup in 74. That's where you spray it. My dad had it in his garage and would use it on the garden probably.
Sure, yeah, to get rid of the weeds.
Right, yeah. And in the beginning it did work really well, but now it's not as effective anymore. But then what really happened is in 1996, Monsanto no longer considered themselves a chemical company, but they became a biotech company, and they have what they call Roundup Ready genetically modified seeds. And that's when you hear the term GMO. So they modified the seeds, which is all of our soy, corn, and cotton crops. They're all, almost all of those are GMO modified. And what they can do then is they can now take this Roundup herbicide, spray the whole crop, and it won't kill the genetically modified seed, but it will kill the weeds around it. They also use Roundup as a desiccating agent. So right before they're going to harvest wheat, for example, which is like a staple of all of our food, right before they harvest, they spray it, and it dries it fast, and it makes it so they can save a lot of money in the whole production, and things don't get moldy because they dry it fast. It goes to harvest. About money is what it is. And we don't farm the way we used to farm. And so in the end, I'm going to give everybody a name of a film to go watch. It's awesome. It's to teaches people about this in a way that's interesting and they can, really dive into and understand. But we've drastically changed things where we're poisoning ourselves. And the problem with this glyphosate herbicide is that it destroys everything in our gut. And I'm sure you've heard of the gut-brain connection.
Yes.
Which is, they know now, it's all tied right in there. So, when glyphosate was used as a chelator and it pulled all these minerals that were scaled in these pipes off, guess what it does to your gut? It does the same thing.
For the listeners, would you explain the connection between the gut and the brain?
Oh, well, they call the gut the second brain. So it's just intrinsically tied in. We have the thin linings, I'm trying to think of the name of it, in our gut. And a healthy gut, we have a gut permeability, and a little bit is normal. But today we have a lot of holes, and people have what they call leaky gut. And that's because of what we're doing and the way we're eating. It causes the leaky gut, and then all the toxins go out into the bloodstream. So that's a problem. So it's just very, very important to eat clean food, and you pretty much have to do it yourself. But meaning you have to buy organic, you have to educate yourself, that kind of thing. Track with you.
I'm just getting educated myself on all this stuff. And that book you sent me that Zen wrote is amazing. I'm not very far into it because I have to absorb a lot. It's a lot of new information. But I'm noticing on some of the things that I buy, like oatmeal and different things, will have like 100% whole grain, and it'll say not non-GMO. And so I get that. But now as I'm listening to you talk about this glyphosate, so it's non-GMO. So that means the seed doesn't have a coating on it that will withstand the spray if they sprayed it with the chemicals.
It means the seed has not been modified.
Okay.
However, this is where people get confused, and this is very important because there's a lot of lingo out there and it's confusing. When you need to look for USDA organic, USDA 100% organic is not genetically modified, but you can have something genetically modified, and it does not mean it's organic.
That's what I thought.
Pesticides.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Like I was rethinking what I was buying. So, there's just so much to this. So we all need to start somewhere and just start learning some of what's going on, because it's going to generate more questions as we all go along and learn what we're putting in our bodies.
And, so ways you can learn is I have a blog, and I'm going to keep adding more to that. And I'm going to start on my website adding kind of like little quick mini courses. So if people ask me a lot of the same questions over and over. So I'm going to put that information on, my website and stuff. So if people have things they want to learn about and they want to reach out to me, they could do that. And I could do a little course on that and have it on my website eventually. But you give yourself grace, and you start where you're at. We need to not take the approach of, oh, that's too much. I'm not going to do that. I can't do that. I'm just going to go ahead and eat my, Twinkies and Ho-Hos and to heck with it. And, we need to it's very, very important, because our health is the most important thing, because if we don't have our health, we don't have anything, and if you have health, you're a better wife, daughter, mother, son, employee, employer,
Yeah, all the
But if
things.
but we're chronically ill today. We have such rates of chronic illness today that like we've never had before. And it's all tied into this.
And you can see it. I don't know. I don't watch a whole lot of TV, but I was watching like Mad Men several years ago, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it just was so interesting that whether it's Bewitched or Mad Men or whatever, but that era of TV, the people were all thin and healthy looking.
Mm-hmm.
And you look
Mm-hmm.
today around when you walk down
Correct.
the street, I feel like I can just feel people's pain just with inflammation, and they're not aware of what's going on and what they're putting in their body, that it's making them feel less energetic and, anyway, unhealthy.
There's another good book that's probably a good one for people to start with called Good Energy by Dr. Casey Means. And it talks about that. It's all about metabolic cellular health. And here's the cool thing. I love this stuff. The cells are so important. They're our energy source, right?
Right.
But it's besides food. Let's see, what did I wrote a note down here on this I was going to tell you about. Okay, so food is information. Just like what we put in our mind is also information. And our cells create and use that energy. And the metabolic dysfunction that goes on today is the cause of our chronic disease. And then like I said, I believe glyphosate is a massive driver of all of this today. And, besides glyphosate, there's atrazine, there's heavy metals, there's all these things. But I think I always tell Paul that if you could magically color everything that glyphosate has touched, like purple or something, right? And you were to pick up a hot dog or whatever it might be. It could be an apple, could be good food. It's just that it's sprayed with these chemicals. And if it was purple, then you would say, oh, I'm not eating this, right? You would see it, but we don't see it. And so we just, blindly trust our regulatory agencies that are supposed to watch out for us, which don't. And we just eat it. We're poisoning ourselves slowly, but if you could see that, you wouldn't eat it. And then we wouldn't be as sick as we were, because that's the difference between when you watch those shows from a long time ago and now, because it had to do when the years that all these chemicals were introduced,
Right.
and when they really started being using. And just as much as, like I said, the food, that's when our mind also is what we take in and what we believe in our mind. Our cells use that. Our cells respond to our mind as well. So it's fascinating. We have a lot of power within us.
We do. And that purple dye is just a great picture in my mind of, wouldn't that be nice that you could just see it and go, oh, nope, no, thank you. I don't do purple or green or whatever that color is.
You're right.
Also, I tell my husband that a lot. He's very funny, very witty, but sometimes he'll say something that I know he's totally joking, but I always remind him, your brain doesn't know if you're teasing or telling the truth, and that's not good. That's not a good message for your brain to hear. He rolls his eyes, but it's so true. Our self-talk matters.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you just talked about food as information for the body. What do you want women most to understand about what they bring into their homes and put on their tables?
Well, first thing is, like I said, try to buy as much organic as you can. Okay. It's really, really important. And look for USDA certified organic. Go to farmers markets and talk with your local farmer and see if they're using pesticides. Get curious, ask questions, don't feel bad. Same with when you're in with a doctor. People are always intimidated by doctors usually. And you're paying them, just ask a lot of questions and everything. Show up for yourself where you're at that day, meaning learn more every day. Try to educate yourself every day, but do the best with what you know at that moment, and give yourself grace, because it's very overwhelming and you're not going to make everything perfect at once. Go through your cupboards, throw out things that are full of preservatives. If you look, anything that stays on the shelf for a long time, that's full of preservatives. And for example, in Europe, where they do better than us, not only do they have their regulatory agency, they make it more so that you have to prove something is safe before it's on the market. Where in the United States, we put it on the market and then we later have all of our class action lawsuits, because,
Mm-hmm.
you can sue if you've gotten this cancer from blah, blah, blah. So we kind of have these backwards. But one thing that they do better than us, too, is that we go and we stock up on a lot in America. We have 2 refrigerators often, and we stock up on a lot of food. And I'm guilty of this because I have 4 kids in the house, and I love Costco. But whereas in Europe, they shop every day. They would get food brought into their little vendors locally, and it's usually not sprayed with things as much, and it's going to perish fast. So you on the way home from your work, you stop by the little market and you pick up your food, and you have a little tiny refrigerator in your place, so you don't have this plethora of things on your shelf. We eat so many processed foods in the United States too. So what would I tell women is if you're in the space of going through the drive-through every day, like with kids or something, cut that back. Try to stop it. And if you do go on momsacrossamerica.org, Zen did testing. And by the way, she does this. She has to raise funds for all of us. Our government doesn't test this. She brings it to the government and shows them. But she raises her own funds and then gets the money and then does outside labs to do all this testing. Our government doesn't test the baby food or the school lunches. So you can go on her website and see a list of all of the fast food restaurants, In-N-Out, Chipotle, McDonald's, all of them. And she ranks them all based on, heavy metals, plastics, the herbicides, glyphosate, atrazine, all of that. So you can go on there and see what's in these foods. So, but I would say start with educating yourself. Try to buy as much of the USDA organic, and then stop with the fast foods. And if you do them, find out which ones are the best. I think Chipotle was the best of the worst. I mean, it's still not great, but it's okay to treat yourself. It's okay to, have days where you have something and not worry about, what's in this and that kind of thing. But overall, you need to educate yourself because it's important. It goes into your body and it feeds your cells. And again, we're sick. A nation. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And if personally, if you're not feeling high energy like you used to, those are just some things great advice to just cut back on how often you go. Just start there and see how you feel. Monitor if it makes you feel any better, that you're eating a little differently one day versus another. That's a great thing to monitor. Thank you for that. So let's see, with everything you've learned, how do you help people make meaningful changes for themselves and their families in a way that feels doable and supportive rather than overwhelming, time consuming, or perfection driven? It's kind of that all or nothing. I think a lot of people give up because they feel like they can't stick to something absolutely 100% of the time.
Okay, so if you were sick like I was sick because it became so extreme overnight, anybody would do anything, most anybody, I can't even fathom, they would do anything to get better, so you would be extreme, right? But most people, when they get sick, it's kind of like if you had, I've known people who have like a bum knee, but they never go get it checked and they never get it fixed. They just kind of hobble around, and then later on it gets a little later. And then finally it's bad enough to the point where, I have to have the knee surgery or what have you. Could be something else. So I think it depends, where you're at and what's going on. But most people, if they could magically step outside of their body and go back, depending how old they are, 10 years, 20 years, and remember what it felt like to be vibrant and healthy and feel good and wake up to feeling good in the morning, everybody's going to want that. When my kids were really little, I used to equate healthy food. So I was always into, as much as possible, healthy food. And I would tell them, for example, you put the best gas in your car so it runs the best. So you put the best food in your car. We're feeding ourselves. Food is medicine, good or bad. So what we put in our body, that's going to either make it flourish or drag it down. So I think most people would want to feel better, but they just don't remember sometimes what it's like to feel good anymore.
Oh, that's so true. Well, and sometimes it's the heavy lifting, like going back to the day when you were raising your boys and having a family and working and all the things. I don't know how women do it actually. And food prepping can take a lot of time. Just starting somewhere.
Well, I did not, caveat there, I did not always have home cooked meals, Now, I would do a lot of, go to Costco because they had, pre-prep. But the good thing is, like Costco today has a lot of organic. And one thing I tell people is if you do buy organic food, like organic fruits and vegetables, say, it's better to always have real whole food that's fresh. But that's not always possible. So I like to stock up on things that I can put in the freezer so that in a pinch, when I don't have time to shop or make something, I can pull it out and it's still pretty clean. It's still clean food. So it's just a matter of educating yourself and then prepping and having things in your house so you can always grab something if you need to that's clean.
Oh, would you give us an example of some of the things that you like to have in the freezer all the time?
Oh, like organic blueberries. Yeah, you can throw them in a shake, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But they stain your teeth. That's what my husband loves. So organic blueberry. And and here's a good, interesting detox tip. I'm really into detoxing too, but this is a side note. So it made me think of it because of the fact I said it could stain your teeth. If you buy organic coconut oil, you can do what's called oil pulling. Have you ever heard of oil pulling?
No, I haven't.
Okay. It's a detox method, but it's also really, really good at making your teeth white. And that's what I do instead of whitening strips. So what you do is you take a little bit of coconut oil, you take a spoon, you keep yourself a separate jar of it, dip a spoon in, put a little bit in your mouth, and keep it in your mouth for as long as you can. And when you start doing it, some people, kind of cough a little and have to spit it up into a bag. But you can do it for, several minutes. Keep it in your mouth and swish it around. And you're supposed to do it first thing in the morning because our mouths hold a lot of bacteria in there. So if you do it first thing in the morning, the coconut oil pulls the bacteria out of there and the toxins. So it's a way to detox. And then you would put it into a plastic Ziploc bag to throw away because you can't put the oil down the sink or something like that.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. I have never heard of that. I'm going to try it.
Yep. You can Google it. Oh, yeah, I do it all the time. So the cool thing is it's a detox method, but also you're whitening your teeth at the same time. So to go back to your question, so I just would go to Costco and they have or there's this brand of an organic turkey burger. So everything in it is organic. And I buy those and freeze them. So if I don't have time to make a dinner, which let's face it, we're all busy. We don't have a lot of time. You can pull that out and put something together fast and you're still eating clean. So I don't eat out a lot myself. And then on the detox side, so because I was telling you how we have all these toxins going into our body all the time, and skincare products are really bad too. There's things you can do. Infrared saunas are really, really good. And if we have one at our house, and you could buy small ones for your house that aren't, the big expensive ones as well. And they also have, most places today have places you can go to do saunas. We have one down by us. It's called Perspire is the name of it. And it's an infrared sauna. So that's a great detox. Oil pulling. Dry skin brushing is another great detox method. And these are things I need to get up on my website. So that would be something I could do a course on too, is detoxing, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that would be a great course.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So there's a lot. And then you're just exercising is detoxing because you're sweating and stuff too. So
right. That run on the beach.
Yep. Yep. That's where I'm headed that way today, and I might go do a run on the beach after we finish up here.
That sounds wonderful. I'll join you. I wish.
Yeah.
I wish we were closer together
Yeah.
because that would be super fun to do. Okay, let's go back. You mentioned genetic testing, and I
Mm-hmm.
want to go back to that. How did
Mm-hmm.
genetic testing factor into your own healing, and how accessible is it for someone who's just starting to explore personalized health?
Okay. Well, for me, when I went into this one place, it was a functional medicine doctor, which I highly recommend finding a good functional medicine doctor, because when you go to the doctor today, for the most part, they give you a pill for an ill. You're trying to, you come in there and you're complaining about something, and they might give you something to alleviate the symptom, but they don't always go upstream like a functional medicine doctor would to figure out, what's causing this problem instead of just band-aiding it, right? And like I said, thank God we have our lovely allopathic Western medicine. It's great for heart attacks, emergencies, cuts, all of that. But where we fail today is healing people. And that's why I get a lot of people that come to me, oddly enough, who've seen a lot of doctors and they can't get better. And which is kind of mind blowing, and very humbling to me. But I kind of do like a whole CSI investigation where someone will send me a whole ton of labs and I look at all of that and try to help figure that out. But okay, so what did you ask? Oh, genetic testing. Okay, so when I went to this one place, what they did, they happened to do a test on me. I don't remember the name of the test or the company because it's kind of like the Wild West today with genetic testing, and I'll explain that in a minute. But when mine came back, the one thing that showed up was that I have the gene SNP. So our genes, they're kind of like ladders, and you think of like rungs on the ladder. And we all have what's called SNPs, and those are single nucleotide polymorphisms. They're like hiccups on our ladder. And so they're, like, whoopsie, this one isn't going to work as well. And we get a copy, from our parents. And sometimes we have two SNPs or one SNP. And one you might hear about today. Have you ever heard of the MTHFR gene?
No,
Okay.
no.
That's one kind of becoming more mainstream. And it has a big long name. And it's the gene that's tied into our detoxifying. There's a lot of genes that are, but that's a really, really big one. And 40% of the population, 40 to 50%, has a SNP. And again, that's like a hiccup or a whoopsie, it's not going to work as well. So 40% of the population has a SNP on the MTHFR gene. And usually those people are of Northern European heritage. I have one SNP on my MTHFR gene. My husband has none. He's really lucky. So he's going to be a better detoxifier than me. Okay. Now I've never had problems my whole life, but I wouldn't potentially detoxify as well. I had a girlfriend who had two SNPs on that gene, and she had a lot of miscarriages. That was one thing, and it ties into a lot of things. But you don't detoxify. So that's just an example. A lot of people have heard of the MTHFR gene, but when they tested me originally, they did a test where it came back and it said I had, the nickname was the dreaded gene. And I was like, what's that? It's, they called it the multi-susceptible. And on my report, it said Lyme, mold, brown recluse spider, and the rattlesnake. And that I'm protected from MS. So I would be someone who likely would not get MS, oddly enough. And then it also said on there, don't get the HPV vaccine, which back then they weren't even giving that to girls anyways back then. So clearly that particular gene I have probably doesn't clear the HPV vaccine. Thank God, I didn't get it, the kid or something. So what it showed me, I was glad I got that, because that is why I got sick so fast. Remember I was saying some people who get Lyme, they could have it their whole life and not know they had Lyme. It's just bacteria. It's like bacterial infection from the tick bite that they get, off the deer and everything that is the host.
Mm-hmm.
So they could have that in them, and their body tries to keep it in check, but like I don't clear it, So it was good for me to see my genes that I had, that it made me understand more. Now, here's where genes come in that are really important. I wish to God that we were all, when we were born, you could do a swab, you can do it through a saliva swab. It's very invasive. You could get a genetic blueprint for everybody. Why would that be important? Because genes load the gun, environment pulls the trigger. So think about that. Genes load the gun.
Environment pulls the trigger.
Right. Yep. And for example, my both of my parents who have passed away, they had a lot of heart issues in my family. And I know that for myself, I've always been an avid runner, weightlifter, all that. But at 50, I went in and I said, okay, do a heart check on me, right? And because you're supposed to do that at that age. And the doctor said, this was way prior to Lyme as well, before that, it sounds like. He's like, he gave me the EKG and he's like, well, you can go do a stress test if you want, but you're going to waste your money. You're phenomenal shape, right? Okay. But when I did my gene report and I saw on it all these little snips, the hiccups, I have a lot on the heart health gene, on that particular gene. There's a whole bunch of them. And so I said to myself, it's probably my parents most likely had that too and didn't know it. So if I was like most people, I'm 61 right now, and say I was 40 pounds overweight and I had high blood pressure, etc., I probably would end up like my parents. That's where genes load the gun, environment pulls the trigger. Like I might have a predisposition to have heart health issues, but if I take care of myself, I probably will never have them. And most cancers are not genetic. Most cancers are environmental. So we might possibly, and just because you have a snip on a gene, it doesn't mean it's going to cause you a problem, but it might. But it's good to know what could happen. And that's where functional medicine comes in and genetic testing comes in. And so today, it's kind of the Wild West out there, to answer your question about testing. You could do like the 23andMe and Ancestry.com, and one of them is out of business now. I don't remember which one. When you do those, just to see where you're from, they do a little bit of the genetic testing as well. Not much, but a little bit. And then you could ask your doctor and get a lot more in depth. But there's a lot of people on social media today, influencers, who are saying, do these 6 genetic tests. These are the only important ones. And I kind of don't like when they do that, because they're all important, but you can't do everything, They're still discovering more genes all the time. This all came about with the Human Genome Project. I mean, that's been quite a long time ago now that they discovered all of that. So what I'm going to do, I started to taking one course on genetic testing, and I could finish that course and then offer it to my clients. But I'm trying to find one that I really like, that resonates with me, that covers a lot of genetic snips, but that isn't so comprehensive, because it's too overwhelming for people.
Yeah, it would
when they
be.
get all this information, So going into the future, you could ask your doctor for genetic testing, but it's so much that you need to know. I'm going to try to hone it down and find a company that I can pair with as a health coach, so I can offer clients through saliva testing to give them information, because it is valuable. Sometimes you then figure out, like, wow, that's why I'm sick in this area, or that's why I have these certain problems I'm more predisposed to.
Right. It seems like it would solve a puzzle piece that's in your mind, and you know which things to pay attention to and get some help.
Exactly.
Get on top of it quickly before something devastating could happen.
Exactly.
I wish you the best luck to find some connection to somebody.
I will. Oh, I will. There's a lot out there.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, genetics is one piece of the puzzle. And another one you talked about was that nutrient status, what the body's actually working with day to day. And I read somewhere on one of your blogs that says you've written that around 90% of the people have vitamin and nutrient deficiencies. What are the common ones you see, and what do you hear so often that goes unnoticed in traditional medical care?
Okay, well, first of all, the reason, I'll tell you what people are deficient in.
Okay.
And then I'll tell you why they are. And if you just look on social media, you'll see ads all the time for magnesium to help you sleep, to help you go to the bathroom,
I see it
whatever.
all the time.
Vitamin, yeah, vitamin B's for energy, take this, do that. And there's all these, a lot of social media influencers that are saying, try this drink. My hairdresser had, well, I can't remember which one it was. It was a pretty famous one. Everybody was doing it. And she asked me about it. And I said, yeah, that's good. That's great. But it's probably pretty expensive. And if you just ate a good balanced diet of a lot of mostly vegetables, and some fruits, you don't want a ton of fruits because the sugar. But if you're getting clean food, we're getting all of our nutrients. Okay. But that's our problem. We don't get clean food.
Right.
So it's magnesium and the vitamin Bs, and people are often very low in vitamin D, and that ties into immunity, and that ties into everything else we're talking about. Because if we have a strong, robust, healthy immune system, then we are more apt to not get sick. And that was the problem with COVID. We were not healthy in the United States either. We fared far worse than a lot of other countries because we don't have a good immune system, because we're hacked. All of us walking around are hacked from all the toxins and stuff. So the glyphosate herbicide that I was talking about, that's on all of our food, pretty much, it is what disrupts the gut and chelates all those minerals. Remember, I was telling you how it was a pipe cleaner originally.
Mm-hmm.
So not only our food, if you take our food that was grown and tested it, it's not going to have the same levels of nutrients that it did 30 years ago, that my grandparents were farmers, that they grew on their farm. It would be much more nutrient dense. So our food is no longer nutrient dense anymore. So we're no longer getting the right amount of nutrients. Thus, all of these ads pop up by these social media influencers on take this drink and do this and do that, because everybody's got that problem. So the best thing you can do is eat clean food, eat real food, not fast food, whole food, eat a balanced diet with, protein, healthy fats, lots of good vegetables, and some fruit, not a ton. You don't want tons of sugar, not processed foods. And then make sure they're, as much as you can, make sure they're organic. Okay. And then not even organic food isn't all perfect today. There's overspray on things, but it's better. You're way better off doing that than just buying conventional food. Now, another thing, here's a tip that people can do. If you go to a great website, environmentalworkinggroup.org, every year they put out what's called the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. The Clean 15 are the produce, vegetables, and fruit that they've tested that are clean. They're not high in all these, pesticides. The Dirty Dozen are ones that do not eat that unless it's organic. So that's a great way to, go online, print it off, put it in your kitchen, put it in your bag when you go to the store, so that you can make wise choices with everything you do. So it doesn't have to be cost prohibitive to everybody, but that's something you can do.
Oh, I love that. That's great advice. Something I've just started seeing on the internet somewhere is how great kiwis are for you, and to eat the outside of it as well. That's something I had never done. I love kiwi, but I didn't know you could eat the outside.
I've never really, I'm trying to think about how did kiwi ever, I'll have to go try that. It's funny. I tend to gravitate towards vegetables, not fruits. I don't know why. I also love dark chocolate. So I guess I like
Me too.
the darker. You do. I like the darker, better thing. But I have heard kiwis are good for you. But I will. Thank you, Wendy. I will have to dig into that now and find out about it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you're probably better off staying with vegetables rather than a lot of fruit, but I tend to be a big fruit eater. I know you got to watch the sugars, but I'm so drawn to fruit.
Most people are, it seems like. But, you also have to live life and love it and enjoy it. So that's where I tell people, give yourself grace. But the biggest thing is to start by learning about this and educating yourself, and for your own health and your families, but also because it's our responsibility as a community to make change. And our buying power is going to make change the most, the fastest, when we buy organic.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm going to take advantage of our farmers markets that are popping up now because the weather's nicer and crops are being harvested. And there's just a lot of different farmers markets we could go to and get some
Yep.
good fresh produce.
And just ask them a lot of questions. Try to find out how they. Sometimes you can go visit their farms too, and get a tour and that kind of thing. So
Oh, good
it's
idea.
really, yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah,
So, and then I always tell people, like, give yourself grace and meet yourself where you are that day, not where you think you should be,
that's great.
because we can get down on ourselves if it's overwhelming, and then we don't ever make changes.
Right. And just to know that one step at a time is still progress.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. And you mentioned a little bit ago about a film that you wanted everybody to look at. Can you go back to that topic and share with us what that is?
Yes, it's a great film. It's called Common Ground, and it's on. I know it's on Amazon now streaming. I saw it when it first came out, and it was premiering in theaters, and I actually got to meet the directors of the movie. It was phenomenal. And they have a new one now called Groundswell. And Groundswell, I think that the Common Ground, the first part of it is a little bit, oh no, when you look at it and see what's going on in our world. But it tells you what we can do with regenerative farming to change things. But I think that's a great piece for people to see, to wake up and realize how our food is grown commercially with all these pesticides. So that's Common Ground, the film. But they now came out with a new one called Groundswell. And I think it's going to be going right to streaming as well. And, they have like Woody Harrelson and Demi Moore. Rosario Dawson was in the first one, and Jason Momoa. So I love it when people get involved who have voices in the world, who care, because that will, bring other people to the attention. In Groundswell, I haven't seen it yet, but I believe it's all about how we can heal the world environmentally by the way we farm, which is more like how we used to. That's how we should farm. And, our carbon layer and all of that, we can sequester carbon in the ground by doing the regenerative type farming. So that's what Groundswell touches upon. But excellent, excellent movies.
Great. We'll check that out here in this household. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's see. Are there one or two books you'd recommend to women who want to take charge of their wellness?
Yes. Okay, so
Or three or four?
one for me, it's not okay. So again, I love The Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton, but it's kind of heavy, sciencey. And then the one I sent to you, Unstoppable by Zen Honeycutt.
Yes.
I think that's great. And then Good Energy by Dr. Casey Means is excellent.
I have that book. That is excellent.
Okay. And then the other one that I had mentioned to you before we started, it's called It's Never Too Late to Begin Again, Discovering Creativity and Meaning at Midlife and Beyond by Julia Cameron. And you know what? It's doesn't even have to be midlife. A lot of times people put things out because they're trying to target specific markets, but we can be reborn every day, all of us, through all of our ages in life. I always say we are the conscious creator, and we have the ability to create the life that we most desire. So it's up to us
Oh, that's
to take
beautiful, Anne.
charge of our life. Thank you.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
think that's pretty much sums up this whole show, the dim to daring, because it doesn't matter what age you are. It's if you're feeling dim and that you were meant for more, it's time for a shift.
yep,
And so it's never too late to start something new. It just means you have so much more to give and so much more to learn and explore. And when you do that, it brings that light back within you and you start living a more full life.
absolutely. And you know what? We're meant to live a full life and have light, because then we're better able to serve other people that way too.
Yeah, and also there are people that watch us all the time, whether it's nieces and nephews or children or neighbors or sisters or
Hmm.
mothers, and they notice when you're doing something that lights you up, and they want that too. And so you're a good mentor and example to help others step into that light as well.
Exactly.
So
Well put, Wendy. Well
pretty
put.
cool. And when someone starts connecting all three, the food, genetics, and the environment, what shifts do you see in them?
I see health, well-being, and thriving, and becoming the best version of yourself that you can be. And you know what? We all deserve that, no matter what age we are.
Great answer. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
For women listening who's just waking up to the fact that something feels off, what's the very first step you'd have her take?
Well, I mean, depending what it is, but listening to your gut intuition. And then if something's wrong health-wise, try to find a good functional medicine doctor to help you find that out. Or reach out to me and I can help some people, and I can help people find doctors in their area too. Someone that will listen to you and help you figure out what's going on.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for opening yourself up to that connection with with some of the listeners and to you directly, because you are a wealth of great knowledge.
Thank you. Absolutely.
What's the biggest mindset shift you see people needing to make before real healing can begin?
Not relying on outside sources, but not just relying on a doctor, a pill, a fad diet, but relying on themselves to reflect and think about what they're really taking in their mind and their body, and make changes needed to become a better version of themselves.
Love that answer. So, Anne, we're wrapping up now. Where can listeners find you and learn more about your coaching work? And I'll be sure to put this in the show notes as well.
They can reach me at my website. It's liveyourgreat.life. And then I have a blog on there, and they can reach out to me through there. Also, I post a lot of health coaching content on Instagram, and that's at Anne Gaarenstroom. It also says Live Your Great Life, but that's where I post most of my content. And then I have a Facebook page as well, where I do some of that on there too. So it's also Live Your Great Life.
Okay. So on Facebook, it's Live Your Great Life.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And I always love to end with this. It's my favorite way to close every conversation. What's the most recent daring step you've taken, big or small, and what did it open up for you? It's the first thing you think of.
Okay. Okay. So I actually, that is one thing that doesn't just come right out of me, because I had to think of that. And I'm kind of pretty daring all the time with, I tend to like jump into things. But I would say the thing that I did, it was a little while back, and I went and hiked Angel's Landing. Are you familiar with Angel's Landing?
No.
It's in Zion. I'm trying to, I was right down, it's a rigorous hike where sheer drop-offs, 1,000 feet below, and there's like a chain on either side where you have to hold on to it. It's kind of scary. So when I was done with the hike, then I went back to my hotel room and Googled how many people don't make that hike, afterwards. So
how many people get freaked out and don't go any further?
Well, there's people that fall off the edge too on the hike. So anyways, I have 4 boys, and I told them I was going to do that. And I think a couple of them had said, you can't do that. And of course, right then and there, that makes me say, yes, I can. Watch me. So
yeah, absolutely. I'm doing it.
Yeah, that was probably the one that I did last. That was, daring or whatever, I guess. So
wow, that totally fits the word daring. I'm going to look that up. I can't believe you did that. It sounds really scary.
So it's like it's 5.4 miles, but then the gain is 1,488 feet. And it just has sheer drop-offs everywhere, but it's stunning. But wow, you gotta do that kind of stuff because it makes you feel alive or whatever it is. Everybody's different what they like to do,
Yeah.
but you have to do things that light you up inside. I
Yeah.
think our whole life we need to keep doing that.
Absolutely. Push you out of your comfort zone, which it sounds like this might have done a little bit of that.
Yeah, exactly. It's good for us every once in a while to do that.
I love that. Anne, thank you again. This conversation today has been truly a gift.
Thank you.
And to all of you listening, thank you for being here. If this conversation stirred something in you, whether it's finally getting that second opinion, taking a harder look at what you're putting in and on your body, or simply making better choices for yourself and the people you love, I hope you'll take that one small step today. You deserve to feel your best every single day. Until next time, keep moving from dim to daring. Thank you so much for joining me today on Dim to Daring. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love it if you subscribed, shared it with a friend, or left a review. It helps more women just like you discover the show. Remember, you're not finished yet, you're just getting started. Until next time, keep daring to grow and shine.